What is going on, everyone? Leon checking in. So today we're here to talk about how to save on your smartphone data and cut down your smartphone usage. So let's start with a little background history first. My quest to reduce my smartphone usage wasn't really a goal initially. All this started when I bought my first Pixel smartphone, which was a Pixel 2 XL, which led to me joining the smartphone plan called ProjectFi. Now, ProjectFi was a smartphone plan that was new in concept to me, but it wasn't new in concept in itself. ProjectFi is the kind of smartphone plan where you have to be aware of what you're using or you're going to pay for it later. We're talking about the kind of pay for it later sticker shock you get when you see your bill is $82.56. Now, this was in my first month of using ProjectFi, and I gotta say, all the years I've had a smartphone, I never ever had a bill that was $82.56. This was a first for me. I had never done this before. Needless to say, going on like this was simply not in my budget. This wasn't something that I could maintain, so I had to make a change, and it was going to be a change in my behavior when it comes to using my smartphone. I knew if my bill was going to get lower, I had to consume less data. What this meant was less recommended Instagram stories, less recommended news stories and their attention-grabbing videos, less recommended YouTube videos, less recommended Netflix TV shows and movies. Basically, I had to consume less of all of this while on the go, because when you're on the go, you're using a mobile data connection for the most part. Saving data alone is what tricked me into reducing my smartphone usage, because I seen a direct relationship between the amount of data I was using and the amount of content I was consuming. Obviously, when you consume so much content, your smartphone bill is going to be more costly, but maybe more important than that is you're going to miss out on the important things that matter in life. Now, before we go ahead and get into this video, I do want to talk a little bit about what ProjectFi is for those of you who are wondering and who may even be interested. So the reason I ended up with ProjectFi after I bought the Pixel 2 XL is because, for those of you that don't know, the Pixel 2 XL is Google's phone and ProjectFi is Google's smartphone plan. So they pretty much go together. So ProjectFi is a smartphone plan by Google, and it has two parts, just like a lot of plans. The first portion of this plan is texting and calling, and that comes in a flat fee of $20. Then you add in taxes and regulatory fees, which brings you to about $25. The second portion is the data portion, which comes in at $10 per gigabyte. Now, when ProjectFi first started, we have to remember this was Google's smartphone plan, so of course it was only available for Google smartphones, which were the Pixels. But now it's easier than ever to jump into ProjectFi, as Google has more ProjectFi ready phones. If you want to learn more about Google's ProjectFi and their ProjectFi ready phones, I'm going to post some links in the description below. Now, if you are an iOS user or Apple user, I hope you still watch the video, because there are tips in this that I find could be useful to anyone who has a smartphone. And when it comes to reducing our data usage and arguably most importantly, reducing our content consumption, this could benefit everyone. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the steps, the tricks, the strategies, all that stuff, whatever you want to call it, that help me reduce my smartphone's data and ultimately help me reduce my smartphone usage. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and let's get into it. So the first step here is really the first step that started this whole journey for me, and I'm going to recommend to everyone, and that is to join a smartphone plan like ProjectFi that forces gamification of saving data, which in turn will decrease your smartphone usage. Now again, ProjectFi was new to me. I came from a smartphone plan that came with quite a bit of data. When you have large amounts of data, you have an infinite amount of recommended things. Basically, you are unconsciously overwhelmed by recommended Instagram stories, recommended news stories, recommended YouTube videos, recommended Netflix TV shows and movies. Now, there is a common pattern here, and that is recommended. And in the online digital world, recommended seems to be kind of similar to advertisement. Recommended sounds beneficial to you. After all, now that you finished all the seasons for that one Netflix TV show, now you have to watch all the seasons for that other Netflix TV show that was just recommended to you, that's pretty much the same as the other Netflix TV show that you just finished. The fact is, although we are unconscious to it, we are recommended infinite content all the time. And the sad part is our time to consume all that content is never increasing. So the time has to be taken for more important things in life and put towards consuming all this content. The trick is to go onto a plan like ProjectFi, where you start at 0 gigabytes and you also start at $0 for that data. And what you now have is a gamification of using less data, because if you use less data, you spend less money. And when you do those things, you decrease your smartphone usage. When you decrease your smartphone usage, you break away from #recommended. The second step is to monitor your data usage. Now on smartphones, you can go into your settings and actually check your data usage, but I don't like this method only because it's not an in-your-face approach. The ideal way to be more aware of your data usage is to download an app that comes with a widget that shows you your data usage in real time. Now the kind of app you'd be looking for would be a data manager app, and you can find these all over the Play Store. The good news is if you are using ProjectFi, you're going to download Google's ProjectFi by Google app, which has a data widget in the app that you can place on your home screen. By placing this data widget on your home screen, you're constantly reminded of your data usage. This data widget will motivate you to keep your data in check, which in turn will help you reduce your smartphone usage. The next step is the third step, and that is to set a data warning and data limit. Now, if you downloaded a data manager app, these features may be available in that app. But if it doesn't, you can find these features a lot of times in your settings. This step will add to the previous step because you'll get an in-your-face notification that you've reached your data warning. Now, of course, you can override that data limit action and turn your data back on, which is probably what a lot of people would do. But again, these are supposed to be reminders of your original goal, which is to save data and reduce your smartphone usage. Alright, so the next step is step 4, and that is to download all content that you normally download over mobile data over Wi-Fi. The first thing you may want to download over Wi-Fi may be one of the things that you use the most, and that would be map data. Now, like a lot of people, I use Google Maps, and by downloading your map data, you're going to save on mobile data. How this works is you can download map data for your area, and as time goes on, that map data is updated. Now there's also an option in Google Maps where you can set it to work over Wi-Fi only. Now downloading map data is probably not something you're going to get excited about, and it's probably not going to decrease your smartphone usage, but it should help you save on your smartphone data. Now there are a few cons to using Google Maps over Wi-Fi only, and the first being you won't get traffic updates. The second con would be that you won't get alternative routes. And the third con is something I noticed as I used Google Maps more and more, and that is it seems like Google Maps sometimes gives you longer than necessary routes because you don't have an online connection. The second content you want to download over Wi-Fi would be media. These are things like podcasts, music, TV shows, and movies. For podcasts and music, I use Google Play Music, and I have it set for that whenever I'm on a Wi-Fi connection, it automatically downloads my podcasts and music. As for TV shows and movies, I use Netflix. Now, I haven't looked too much into this, but I do assume Netflix does have automatic downloading, but I choose to go more manual only because I don't want too much of TV shows and movies on my phone, and also I don't want to fill up my internal storage on my phone. Now, media was a very big area that once I downloaded all of it over Wi-Fi, my data usage went down a huge amount. Downloading media does sound counterintuitive to reducing your smartphone usage, but what we do know about phones is that there is a finite amount of storage on them. So what this makes you do is pick and choose your podcasts, your music, your TV shows, and movies. You only get to pick what you want. And this kind of goes back to the problem of having huge data plans and unlimited data plans. And that is when you have those kind of plans, you can just stream and stream and stream. You have access to what seems like an infinite amount of content, and it's all available, it's all there for you. So downloading media and refusing to stream over mobile data is kind of like putting a barrier around yourself, and you only have so much inside the barrier, and you're not going to go outside looking for other things. That brings us to the fifth step, and that is if you have to use mobile data, use Data Saver. Now you may have a few options for Data Saver. Data Saver may be available in your web browser on your smartphone. Data Saver may also be a feature available in your smartphone. For example, on my Google Pixel 2 XL, I just have to swipe down from the top of the screen to pull up my settings, and Data Saver will be right there. I can touch it and activate it. Now, Data Saver is kind of like downloading map data. It's not necessarily going to decrease your smartphone usage, but it should help you save on data. Now, just like using Google Maps over Wi-Fi only, Data Saver does have some cons. Now, the main goal of Data Saver is in the title itself, and that is to save you data. Now, what that means is Data Saver may cause web pages to not load completely or properly. Now, I've been using Data Saver a lot, and you would think that if you use Data Saver because it may be keeping web pages more simple, it would load web pages faster. But actually what I noticed is the opposite. In some instances, web pages actually take longer to load, and that could be a frustrating part of using Data Saver. Now, after all these steps, that brings us to the sixth step, which is probably the most exciting in a way because you're going to nix data completely. Now, this is pretty much self-explanatory. If you turn off your mobile data, it's the only way to guarantee that you're not going to use any mobile data. Also, if you can't use any mobile data, this should equate to less smartphone usage. Now, this isn't something that you have to do 24/7, 365 days a year. It's just something that you do in bursts of maybe a few hours at a time, and you may start small and slowly increase the time. But again, this step is beneficial when you want to make sure that you're using absolutely no data whatsoever. Now, I found practicing this method was pretty interesting to me because it reminded me of my original goals, which were to reduce my data and decrease my smartphone usage. For example, if you go on Instagram, it'll show you content from the last time they had an internet connection. But if you go to click on anything, you'll just get blank screens. Now, of course, the thing that I found more interesting was when you don't have any mobile data and you open up the Chrome browser, of course, you're going to get the normal warning that you're not connected to the internet, but there is a picture of a dinosaur in a box. And that's actually a game you can play offline in the Chrome browser when you don't have a mobile data connection. This was kind of an experiment for me because it showed me that whenever you're in an awkward situation, sometimes you just feel like you have to pick up your phone and do something. Most of the time when I was out with people, family, friends, and they pulled out their phone, I could fight the urge to pull out my phone and copy them. But for those times that I just couldn't fight the urge, I would just pull out the phone and I would play this dinosaur game. And again, this was just a reminder that sometimes we just feel like we have to be doing something. And this may be a good alternative to consuming content. Is to just play a simple game like this in the Chrome browser. Now, once this moment had passed, I was able to put my smartphone down, although there were still other people on theirs. And I was able to focus on the moment and focus on the people who weren't on smartphones. And I gotta say, it was pretty empowering to know that I had just controlled that situation. I didn't feel like I was being controlled by wanting to consume lots of content. So how did all this work for me? The first thing is I'm happy to say that my data usage has dropped over time. Now, I'm going into my third month using ProjectFi, and I feel pretty confident when I say that next month my bill should be under $35, and that's a huge difference from my first bill, which was $82.56. Now, of course, because I've been cutting my data usage, I've also been cutting my smartphone usage. I spend my time listening to educational podcasts instead of wondering what's going on Instagram. I enjoy finding one good Netflix TV show and movie and finishing those instead of starting 5 Netflix TV shows and 2 movies and not finishing anything. It's because of these strategies this video was possible. See, instead of consuming content, I spent time writing the script for this video. I spent more time on this project, which meant a lot more to me than consuming content. I felt more purposeful, more in control, more free. But what I have noticed is because I've become so good at consuming less content on the go, it has directly affected how I consume content when I'm at home on a Wi-Fi network. And the good news is I consume a lot less content even when on Wi-Fi. What this means is when I'm at home, I'm spending more time on planning my life. What this means is my apartment is constantly maintained throughout the week. So when the weekend comes, instead of having a whole bunch of stuff to clean, I just have to do a quick wipe down. I have more time for my dog. My goal is to take my dog on longer walks, just spend more time with him and do things with him. I no longer have to freak out about being invited to random events and not wanting to go because I did everything else at home instead of spending time consuming all this content. And obviously, because I'm consuming less content, I'm more aware of the things around me and the people. So what does this all mean? How do I decipher all of this? For me, I think maybe the problem isn't our smartphones. Maybe it isn't Instagram or news stories or YouTube or Netflix. Maybe the problem is huge and unlimited data plans and an infinite amount of content and not being aware of the data that we're consuming. Maybe the problem is not being aware of how consuming huge amounts of data is leading us to consume huge amounts of hashtag recommendeds. Maybe the problem is not being aware of how consuming huge amounts of recommendeds are taken away from the precious time that we have here on Earth. And maybe the future should be more about consuming less and less about consuming more. If you enjoyed the message in this video, please make sure to leave a like and share with someone who might enjoy it. If you have any questions or comments or any tips on how to reduce your data or decrease your smartphone usage, please make sure to leave those below. Now you can support the channel by heading on over to my Patreon page where you can leave a donation that'll support the channel so we can put out more videos. You can also support the channel by hitting that subscribe button. And until next time, Leon checking out.